Have some sympathy or some understanding, is this is my first time coming to an awakening retreat. So if you're figuring out what is going on, I'm in the same boat. So you have someone to sympathize with you. And speaking as a spiritual father, how much joy it gives to my heart of seeing all of you to come out here to spend the weekend, to really step away from everything and to truly enter into a prayerful experience wherever you are in your journey. Some are doing well, some are not. But hopefully through this weekend you have that encounter that you may have been looking for, or maybe even just have that moment to just be. And that is what's so important about coming to this weekend. And so it gives great joy to my heart because there was nothing like this when I graduated from LSU. I'm a proud graduate of LSU, graduated in '04 with a degree in chemical engineering. And so this is great to come back as a priest now, to be a spiritual father, to walk with you, to bring you the sacraments, and to be there for whatever you might need as you go through your journey this coming year. If I'm here longer than a year, I have no idea. We put that in the Lord's hands, and I rejoice in the opportunity to be here with you. So what brings me here tonight is to talk about a wonderful sacrament that the church has given to us, that Christ has given to us, that sometimes has maybe a negative connotation, or has, as those who were going through my confirmation class learned last night, a lot of different names. I'm not going to quiz them on what I talked about last night, but sometimes we call this confession. Sometimes we call this the sacrament of forgiveness. Sometimes we call this reconciliation, compassion. All those names are appropriate to describe it. But hopefully, as I talk about it, it helps with your understanding as you go through it. Speaking from experience, it is something that's still hard for me even to do. And I'm the one who hears confessions. But I can tell you at my age, when I was your age, confession was not important to me at all. It was one of those sacraments that I didn't feel comfortable going to, didn't feel comfortable approaching, because I'm going to this person and I have to tell him something that I don't like about myself, that I've done wrong. But my attitude has changed, but it's taken a long time and a long journey. I was much older than all of you were when I finally started to embrace what a wonderful sacrament and wonderful experience this is. When we look at confession, we kind of look at, why do we need to do this? God knows everything, right? Right. He knows what's on our hearts, what's on our minds, and really already knows what we're going to do in a particular way. But the sacrament is not necessarily for him, it's for you. The sacraments are a way of encountering Christ still present among us, and a way of uniting us with all of us to become one body, one united people towards God. And so we look at this sacrament, it's not a sacrament to feel that we are being judged. I know it's hard when we go to meet somebody that we feel like we're telling we've done something wrong, and they're here to judge us and to give us a sentence, like a penalty for doing something wrong. And we get that from our legalistic mind view of looking at the system. Well, I go before the judge, I tell him I've done wrong, I'm pleading guilty, and then he gives me a punishment, and I think that's it. Well, hopefully we can walk past that. One of the reasons why we look at this sacrament is to be important. We look to Romans 10:10. It looks in that part where the conversion of heart and faith helps us to be justified. But if you read through that sentence and go towards the end of that sentence, it talks about the confession by the lips leads to salvation. That you can say, you know you've done something wrong, and you hold it in your heart for so long, and then you have to go finally admit to somebody. Maybe you remember this as a kid, maybe you've experienced this with talking to your parents, to your friends, knowing that you've done something wrong. But once you finally let it out, while it may be painful, it might be hurting at that moment, that there's a switch, that there's something that happens us internally when we do that something has changed. That we admitted we were wrong, but now we're no longer hiding, quote unquote, this secret or this guilt or this pain. And in a way, we're turning it out there and bringing it to exposure. The biggest lie that I can tell all of you that the devil wants you to believe and to fall into is that idea that you are alone, and that once you've done something wrong, how can you go to God and ask for forgiveness? How can I possibly be forgiven for this, no matter what it is? That is the greatest lie that you can tell to yourself or believe from others, that there's something that cannot be forgiven. But I'm here to tell you that the Lord is always ready to extend His greatest mercy and His greatest love to you at every moment with that contrite heart that you bring to Him. I can tell you through my own journey that there's certain sins that I know for the longest time that I did not confess because I didn't want to be judged or I didn't know how to deal with it. Now, how hard it was to go, because I know I've been falling into dealing with this sin over and over and over again. Now, how can I then go back to the sacrament if I'm continuously confessing this? But that's the beauty of the sacrament, is the way, Lord, I'm turning this over to you, and I'm asking for your help and that grace to go that extra little step. Yes, we fall, but when we fall, do we get back up? That's always one of the greatest lines. I remember, if you've seen The Return of the Dark Knight, and that episode where Bruce Wayne is broken, back is broken, he's laying there, and he remembers back to that scene in the well, and Alfred asks him, Master Bruce, why do we fall? So that we can get back up. And it's always that scene that sticks with me. Maybe if you want to look at something biblical, look at that woman who was caught in adultery. She was caught doing something wrong, taken by the crowd and wanted to be stoned because that was the penalty according to Jewish law. And they throw her in front of Jesus. And you remember that scene where he always had looked with her compassion. We're always curious, what did he write on the ground? Was he writing the sins of everyone else that was before him? But more importantly, when that ended that particular passage, where is everybody here to stone me? They're all gone, Lord. Well, neither do I judge you. In a way saying, I forgive you. And then says, go sin no more. Now you can think adultery is a very serious sin and offense against the Lord. But even there, he sits and works with this woman, hears her, and sees her for who she is. And the Lord does the same to all of you as you come here, and hopefully as you look at maybe attending that sacrament at some point. That is a way of the Lord taking that weight that's been on your shoulders for so long, or something that you're carrying as you go along, and saying, Lord, here it is. It's like you've all gone through high school and you had that backpack that seemed to weigh 100 pounds. And you walk through and you're carrying it all day. And then finally you get home, that place that feels safe, hopefully, and you throw that backpack down and you let out that sigh of relief. I don't have that anymore. Well, I hope you feel the same way when you look at the sacrament of confession. Is a way of taking that heavy load that you've been carrying and turning it over. Now you might say, well, I'm just turning over to a man. Well, I hope for you to realize with a priest that he's been ordered to something greater, that he's been ordered towards Christ. I share with a lot of people who question about confession, and it's helped me on my journey. He says, when a Catholic comes from confession, he does truly, by definition, step out again to the dawn of his own beginning and look with new eyes across the world to a crystal palace that is really of crystal. He believes in that dim corner, in that brief ritual, God has really remade him in his own image. He is now a new experiment of the Creator. He is as new as an experiment as when he was really only 5 years old. He stands, as I said, in the white light at the worthy beginning of the life of man. The accumulations of time can no longer terrify. He may be gray and gouty, but he is only 5 minutes old. It's one of the most beautiful descriptions I've heard of confession, that when you step